Welcome back. Today we're looking after the electric antenna of the Jeep. So what you basically need to do is getting this plastic liner out. I didn't take it out fully. It's a bit of a pain. These nuts here, if you turn them, they just break off, and then this sheet metal holder thing gets loose. I tried it a while ago and it's a pain, so what I did, I pulled it out, and there's enough thread left to use a bigger washer and a nut on top of it so it holds. To get the antenna out, I don't know if that's visible, hopefully, there are two 8mm hex bolts, and I think that's it to get it loose. And then you need to get that castle nut off here, and I think then it just comes down. There are some wires on the inside, I'll show that later, which need to come off as well. And then we take the thing apart and see what's wrong with it. It doesn't move anymore, so we'll see. So that worked. We got the castle nut off. It wasn't seized. I was surprised. And now we need to... There are two bolts. One is here, one is here, and this one needs to be loosened. And then this thing comes off here. These grey, white and green wires, they're going to the antenna. And the other one is that's the cable, that's the antenna cable itself. So that's what we need to get off. Hopefully that's all visible. Yeah. Here we got it out. There's a grommet here. You can just pull the whole grommet out. Luckily there was a connector just in the footwell somewhere, so it was relatively easy to get it out, and I didn't need to pull the whole cable out back from the radio. So let's take that thing apart. It looks like there's some metal clamps here around, so we'll take it apart and see what's inside. So the wires go here, so I think we take this side off. Don't know if that works. I know it's getting power, so it's got to be something with the antenna itself. Get all these clamps off here. There's a rivet here. Yeah, that's a rivet. You're gonna drill that out. There's another one here. And one here. 1, 2, 3 rivets. So I'm gonna drill them out and come back. So we got them drilled out, and I don't know what to expect here. Something else here. I don't know. It's not moving. coming apart, I think. Uh-oh. There's a lot of rust inside. So that's probably the reason why it doesn't work anymore. I wonder if this is another rivet here. And there is another one here. Okay. Let's drill that out. In the center is one. Okay, the center one is out. There's a gear. There you go. That's how it looks inside. So what this basically does is that cable here is being wound out by the motor, so the antenna mast comes up. So let's see if the motor is moving. No, the motor is stiff. It's not going to move at all. So our problem is actually the motor. I wonder what this rocker is doing here. There's a lot of rust inside here and here. So we need to take that motor out, get the bearing going, and eventually it works. This is freaking dirty. Yeah, the antenna mast works. Yeah, so the antenna mast moves. That's fine. It's not sticky. But the but the motor is completely seized here. Doesn't look burnt. It just doesn't move. So I think this bearing, because that's full of rust, is causing the problem. Let's go a bit further. If that, get that out. Hopefully that's visible. I'll turn that around. So this cable is basically pushing the antenna mast out. That's all smooth here. So our problem is the motor. I wonder how that comes out. I'm gonna pull the motor out and then we'll see. The switch is fairly clean. It looks all good. Okay. Yeah, I try to get it out and then I'll come back. So we got the motor out. The rear bearing is barely moving. It's a bit stiff as well, but the front one is completely seized. That block moves very stiff. So we need to clean that and oil it. And then we should be good to go. The brushes don't look very good either. Very simple design, but I think we're gonna live with those. It just slips over it. It's a really simple one, and I think this block here is the trigger for the switch, so out or in. Just the end stop. So if there is too much force, I think it pulls that forward and just presses that switch and opens it. Ah yeah, hear that? So in either direction, if it hits the stop, that block moves and pushes the switch so it doesn't burn the motor out. Alright, let's get that clean and then we'll see. So we got the bearing off. It looks a bit, it needed a bit of heat and hammering, and the shaft is really rusty. So I put it in a lathe and make it nice and tidy. The bearing survived actually, so I think the shaft was rusting and the bearing seized. Maybe it wasn't used for a long time, who knows, because when I bought it there was no, it has a detachable front and the front was missing, so the radio wasn't used for a long time, I think. So I'm gonna make that nice and shiny and then we'll come back. So that looks much better now. The bearing spins nice and free. Just do the other side as well. That's fine. So that's all good. Just turn it around and do the polish the rear one as well. And then we should be good to go. So everything is nice and tight. This thing got a fair bit of run out here. It's horrible, but that's how it is. Bearing fits. We polished the commutator as well. So let's put it back together with some grease and see if it works. So we got it back together. And this is pushing against the switch if it's out, and the other end is pushing against this switch, the other pin. And I think this thing here, that just does a few turns here. There's a notch here. I think that's a bit of a pain to assemble it, but we'll get there. So yeah, let's put it back together. Put some Hylomar on these grooves here. Make sure it stays tight, watertight. And then we'll try it. So we got some RTV around. Once it's tested and working, I'll put some on the outside as well, just to make sure it's watertight. The problem is actually aligning this notch with this notch. Can be a bit challenging, but we'll see. I think we just hit it. So instead of the rivets, I just use some stainless hardware. For now I just use the clamps. Just in case I need to take it apart again. Doesn't want to go there. Oh, this is tight. These buggers. Okay, ready to test. See if it works. No gaps. Everything seems back together. Alright, come back in the car. So, here we got the antenna. I just hooked it up here because it's a pain to put it in and back out. So, and after we found that I pulled the fuse, it works. So it comes out. Oops. Yeah, it stops. Great. And back down. And it stops. So that looks good. Let's put some stainless bolts in there and put it back in place. So we fitted some stainless steel bolts and nuts instead of rivets, so if it happens again it's easier to take it apart. I greased everything, which is a bit rusty. It's usually sort of dry in that area, but a bit of grease wouldn't harm. Let's put it back together in the car and give it another try, and then we call that done. When you put it back in, put the bolts in here, but don't tighten them. And then tighten the castle nut flush. I just use a pair of snapping pliers. Just tighten it by hand. It's plastic, so careful. Just to make it flush here. And then tighten those two bolts here. Don't forget to put that rubber grommet back once everything is in place, and make sure nothing is rattling it or touching. I think it's touching a little bit here, so I'll put something in between, because there was always a bit of a knocking noise, and I think that's actually the antenna. Just put some soft material in between. Alright, let's tighten it up and give it a try. On the 96 Cherokee is actually that pink fuse here. Don't know if that's visible, hopefully. That's the antenna. And the connector for the with the 3 wires is approximately here behind. You can't pull the cable down, and it's fiddly. It's got a latch. It's a pain in the neck. Obviously this is a right-hand drive. I don't know where it's on the left-hand drive, but yeah, it's about this height, right behind there, and you're gonna go deep into the panel here. It's a real pain, but we got it back together. Let's see if it works. I've got a working radio. That's all we need. That's it for today. And from the antenna, till next time.